Hello, my name is Penny Meckley Porter, and I love teaching people about mindfulness. That's one of my favorite topics. I'm a therapist here in Erie, PA, and I gave a talk at the Jefferson about a year and a half ago, and it was really about mindfulness and even like the miracle of mindfulness, why mindfulness can be so helpful to us in our lives. So I'm here today to teach you about mindfulness, but then also I'm here to help you practice mindfulness so that by the end of this talk today, it's going to be about an hour long. By the end of this talk today, you will understand mindfulness better, what it is. You will understand how to practice it. You'll understand the benefits of mindfulness because mindfulness can help you navigate the difficult times that we find ourselves in here with COVID-19. Mindfulness can help you navigate better than you would without mindfulness. So that's what we're here to talk about today. I'm not really used to doing Facebook Live, so I'm going to be doing my best. At some point, I will kind of pause and look at the questions if there are any questions that come up. But again, I'm here to teach you mindfulness and have you experience mindfulness today. So let's get started. First, I want to just talk a little bit about it and then we'll practice. Mindfulness is essentially bringing our awareness to the present moment. Instead of being in the past, because lots of us can spend time in the past, worried about things in the past. A lot of us can be in the future, worried about the future. But really, when we're in the present moment, there really are a lot of benefits to being in the present moment. And one of the greatest benefits is that when we're fully in the present moment, we're not spinning in our brains. So just a little example, think of a time in your life. Let's say somehow you're going to be watching the sunset. You're going to be watching the sunset and you, let's say you were super distracted. You're worried about something. Maybe you just had an argument with somebody. There you are watching the sunset and you're so distracted. You don't really enjoy it, right? You're not really present for it. Let's say there's another version of the same kind of situation and maybe you had a good day, you are fully present. You are enjoying the sunset. You're noticing how the clouds are. You are noticing perhaps there's a breeze. You're just having maybe a moment of joy even or gratitude that you're living a life where you get to see this amazing sunset. And obviously in both scenarios, you're the same person. However, in the second scenario, you're enjoying it so much more than in the first scenario where you're distracted and you're not fully present. So that's what I'm talking about. As we're more fully present, we can experience more moments of joy and more moments of happiness. And we can tolerate the difficulties better. So maybe we can find moments of joy and happiness, like even today, even though there's a COVID-19, it's happening all around us and we're all feeling somewhat anxious, if not very anxious and very panicked and very fearful. But what if each day we can be in the present moment and we can have a moment of happiness or gratitude or joy when we connect with another person or we enjoy a memory? But let's get started. I'm going to ask my technical team if there's anything I need to be aware of. I had a lot of them. Okay, my technical team has been very helpful. Thank you, technical team. So, okay, let's get started with an example. First, I want to do a breathing exercise. Okay, then we're going to do examples. We're going to practice this, and then I'll do a little bit of talking. Then we're going to come back to another practice and more talking. We're going to do that repeatedly throughout this hour. So right now, what I'd like to do is practice on deep breathing. So a lot of us, I don't know, maybe some of us have learned deep breathing, maybe some of us haven't, but it's called diaphragmatic breathing. And it's where we breathe more down into the belly. So you can't see me, but now I'm holding my belly. We breathe more down into the belly and less just into the chest. So there's this natural way that as we become adults, I don't know why, but anyway, we start to have kind of constricted breathing. We do more shallow breathing. So if you ask like a little kid how to do deep breathing, oftentimes a little kid would go, well, actually that's shallow breathing. That's not going to cut it. It's really good to learn this diaphragmatic breathing where we breathe further down into our belly. Okay. So what I'd like you to do right now is put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Again, I'll just up for a second. One hand on your belly. If you'd like to close your eyes, you can. When I do this with my clients, they close their eyes. So of course, that's up to you. So as we practice this, perhaps your eyes are closed. First, I would like you just to tune into your breath. Before we do the diaphragmatic breathing, I would like you just to tune into your own breath. Taking this time to notice. With every inhale, there's an expansion. An expansion of your lungs, your whole rib cage, your whole chest cavity. With an inhale, there's an expansion. With an exhale, there's a contraction of your chest cavity. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, contraction. You're just tuning into your breath. Your breath is always there. But right now you're tuning into something that's always there that you don't necessarily pay much attention to. Now with your next breath, I want you to try to, with your next in-breath, expand your belly. Next in-breath, you expand your belly. With the exhale, you contract your belly. Inhale, your belly expands. Exhale, your belly contracts. All right, I'm going to kind of refocus this so you can see my hand moving just briefly. Here we go. Inhale, your belly expands. Exhale, your belly contracts. Now you do this at your own rate, not my rate. Your rate's going to be different. Inhale, belly expands. Exhale, belly contracts. Again, it's called diaphragmatic breathing. You're increasing your breath into your belly. Now, you don't actually breathe into your belly. It basically just brings your diaphragm down, and so that your lungs can expand further. So we don't really breathe into our belly. We expand the belly, the diaphragm comes down, and we take a deeper breath. Back to our practice. With the inhale, expand, exhale, contract the belly. How about maybe 3 more breaths? I'll count my own. 1 more inhale, have the belly expand some. Exhale, it contracts some. Inhale, again, there's the expansion. Exhale, contract. So then let's finish up with that for a moment. Come back here. I'd like you to know that as you do this inhale and exhale, you do it at your own pace. You can always just come back to your breath. You don't always have to be expanding your breath into your belly. Okay, you can always just come back to your natural breath. The reason we practice expanding the breath into the belly is because we often, when we feel anxious especially, we have constricted breathing and we don't breathe as deeply. Most of us, if not all of us, right? So this is a practice that will help us to breathe more deeply, more regularly. But as you're doing it, I don't know, if it starts to be uncomfortable in any way, you just go back to your normal breath. Come right back to your normal breath. Just want to be sure there were no questions. Okay, so that was a little bit of deep breathing. And why is this even helpful? Okay, first, let's explain what mindfulness is. I explained it a little bit, but I want to come back to it now. Mindfulness. Oh, this is a definition by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's considered to be like the father of mindfulness in our country. So people have been practicing mindfulness for many, many years, thousands of years actually, because mindfulness is a form of meditation. That's good to know. So every time we do a little bit of mindfulness, if we have a mindful moment, we get credit for meditating, which is kind of cool. So here's the definition by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention in the present moment non-judgmentally. So it's awareness that arises through paying attention, okay? In the present moment, brings us back to the present moment. And key there is non-judgmentally. So mindfulness practices can help us to come into the present moment so we're not spinning in our brain about, fears of the future and other things. But coming to the present moment, one of the real keys is that it doesn't need to be non-judgmental. It's a practice to make it non-judgmental, right? How many of you have a practice of when you notice something about yourself, maybe, I don't know, you're feeling extra anxious today. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe you're feeling extra anxious today. And when you notice you're feeling extra anxious, you're like, oh my gosh, why do I have to be so anxious? Or whatever. Maybe you're judging yourself for being anxious. Maybe you're just kind of diving into the anxiety fully and you're becoming completely panicked. And then you're judging yourself for that. Well, the mindfulness practice, this practice of coming back to the present moment non-judgmentally, that can be helping us learn to judge ourselves less. And there's lots of value in that. So much value in judging ourselves less. When we judge ourselves, it's not actually helpful or productive. So these mindfulness practices, what we just did was a deep breathing exercise. And I want to do another breathing exercise in a couple of minutes. Whoops. My advisor said to look at you guys there and look at my notes this way. Okay. So I want to do another mindfulness exercise in a couple of moments where we're paying attention to our breath, but we're also kind of figuring out what part of our breath is really interesting that can kind of keep us present so that when we practice this routinely, for some of us, we like that sense of the belly expanding and contracting. For some of us, we like to listen to the breath at the nose. There's different things that we can practice that can help us come back to the present moment when we are practicing this deep breathing. And we do want to come back to the present moment routinely. It helps us tolerate the anxiety and the stress of what's going on today. So let's come back to the breathing. Let's come back to the breathing now. We're going to practice again, and we're going to go a little bit deeper, practice a little bit differently this time, and we're going to be present in the present moment. Okay? So again, closing your eyes if you're comfortable with that. This time, don't necessarily put your hands on your chest and your belly unless you want to. Closing your eyes and coming back to the breath. Again, noticing your chest cavity, the expansion and the contraction of your chest cavity. Again, noticing your own breath. It's something that's there all the time. It's almost like a friend that's got your back. Expanding, contracting, noticing your breath. Now, some people really like to expand into the belly and feel a little stretch. I invite you to try that. Take an extra big deep breath. Feel that stretch in the belly and in the chest. And just notice it. You don't have to evaluate it or anything. You can just notice it. For some people, that just feels good to them. Other people like to notice the breath at their nose. So I'd invite you right now, you can keep your eyes closed. Notice the sound of your breath right there at the nose. You can hear it. The inhale, the exhale, listening to your breath. Just tuning in to something that's always there that you don't necessarily notice. Maybe you can feel your breath and give that a try. On the inhale, perhaps you can feel your breath coming in, at your nose. Maybe you can feel your breath right there in your sinuses. So not to get it all technical about it, you're just noticing how it feels to breathe in. You're noticing how it feels to breathe out. Okay? Breathing in, breathing out. Now, some people like another practice, and that is this idea of circular breathing. So we don't all feel like we breathe in a circle. I don't personally feel like I breathe in a circle, but mostly I feel like I breathe in and then I breathe out, almost like an up-down kind of thing. But there's this other way of doing it, eyes open or eyes closed, either way, but I will be showing with my hand a little bit. It's this idea of circular breathing, almost like being on a Ferris wheel. So here we are at the bottom. With the next in breath, it's almost like we're traveling up, over the top, and when we exhale, we go around to the bottom. Inhale, over the top, and exhale, and then around the bottom. Inhale, up and over the top, exhale, around the bottom. I'll let you practice that yourself. Inhale and around, up, exhale and down. But you do that at your own pace. You're practicing this yourself. And I want to take another minute maybe, and have you practice that on your own. There's probably something that I just practiced with you that really resonates with you. And I want you to practice that one that resonates with you while I'm quiet. Whenever you're ready, I want you to open your eyes and come back. So we've just been practicing different kinds of breathing exercises. And my goal when I practice these breathing exercises with you and also with my clients is to find some portion of what we were just practicing that really resonates with you. That can even be kind of an anchor. Because when we're done with this today, I'd like you to practice that deep breathing. Find a time twice a day where you can practice that. 5 deep breaths or even 10. 10's even better. Maybe every morning, maybe every evening. Maybe every time you sit down on your chair, you practice a couple of deep breaths. And some part of that might be a little bit more of an anchor for you. Some people love the idea of the circular breathing. Some people love the feeling of their stomach stretching. Some people really love to listen to the breath at their nose. So why does it matter? It matters because for some people it's calming, which is good. I don't know, it's nice. We can all have something that calms us and it's like non-addictive. Wine might be addictive and deep breathing isn't even addictive, right? So it can be calming at times. It's not necessarily always calming. So don't get attached to the idea that it's calming. But another thing about it is it really can kind of bring us back to the present moment. And being in the present moment is a valuable place to be, because thinking and spinning on all this coronavirus stuff or spinning on any of our worries, it doesn't help us to feel okay. And it also doesn't help make things better. Now, most of us know that worrying about the things that we cannot control doesn't help make them better, but we often worry about them anyway. And this mindfulness and these breath practices can bring us right back to the present moment. So what are other benefits of a mindfulness practice? So we're going to do a bunch of other things. Like we can practice mindfulness with Guess what? Chocolate. We can practice mindfulness with peeling an orange and eating an orange. Yep, we can. We can practice mindfulness with holding an object from nature. We can practice mindfulness with that also. So we're going to practice some other things, but why is mindfulness helpful here? There are benefits of mindfulness. For one, okay, if you look up meditation or you look up mindfulness on the internet, you look up the benefits of either one. And again, mindfulness is a form of meditation. Mindfulness can reduce stress. It can reduce the adrenaline and the cortisol that is flowing through our body, the norepinephrine. So those are some of the fight or flight chemicals. You guys are probably all familiar with the idea of the fight or flight response. That's what's happened. That's what happens when we have a thought that makes us feel super stressed or really panicked. A thought about our health, a loved one's health, what's going to happen in our country, what's going to happen, whatever. There's so many thoughts right now, and so many of those thoughts right now can have this kind of fight or flight response with them. And so then they release these chemicals in our body. And as we practice mindfulness, the mindfulness can help to reduce those panic chemicals in our body. They also, as we practice mindfulness, so practicing mindfulness, let me tell you here right now, practicing mindfulness, it's like practicing the violin or practicing shooting a basketball and getting it in, right? Practice makes us better. And so we won't necessarily be good at it right away, but that's okay. The practice is actually very beneficial whether we feel like we're good at it or not. The practice does help us to get better so that more often we can pull our awareness back to the present moment. Other benefits, in addition to reducing stress and the stress chemicals in our body, it can help us to sleep better. It can help improve our attention and improve our focus. It can help us with learning. It can also help us to have more stable moods, right? Because then we can actually manage our brain a little bit more and manage our moods a little bit more, okay? So there's so many benefits of mindfulness. I know you can look it up, but it's pretty endless, the benefits of mindfulness. So coming back to a practice here in a minute or two, let's go ahead and do another practice, okay? Let's do some body awareness, okay? So what I'd like you to do right now, again, is if you're comfortable with it, close your eyes. Some people don't close their eyes. They kind of look down, just looking down. So they're not like looking around, but kind of looking down, or maybe eyes partial closed. So we're gonna do a mindful body scan. Let's do a time check. Mindful body scan, okay? Closing your eyes. I want you to bring your awareness to your right foot. Yes, your right foot. You don't have to do anything with your right foot. Although if it's hard to bring your awareness to it, then you can wiggle your You can wiggle your right foot. Bringing your awareness to your right foot right now. Notice first the big toe. Notice next the second toe. Notice the third toe, the fourth toe. Notice the fifth toe on your right foot. If it's hard to even discern your toes, because I kind of struggle with that, if it's hard to even discern one toe from another, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You're just trying to notice your toes, okay? Let's go to the left foot. Notice the big toe, the second toe, the third toe, the fourth, and the fifth. I'm not hurrying through this. We're taking our time here. We're noticing our toes. Yes, we are. Now we're going to go both feet at the same time. Notice the bottom of your feet. There's some parts of your feet that are probably touching your shoe or the floor. Some parts of your feet that feel more weight than other parts. Right now I'm feeling weight in my heel, a little bit of weight in the ball of my foot. You don't have to figure anything out. It's really, yeah, right. So this is not about figuring things out. Where is the weight? In the back or in the front? No. It's just about noticing where the weight is in your feet. Can you feel if you have shoes on? Maybe you can notice the tension of your shoes or the touch of your shoes. Perhaps you notice your socks. Maybe you can notice the skin of your foot, the outside of the skin. I don't know, it's probably touching, I don't know, your clothes, your sock, the floor. Just noticing the skin of your foot. Coming up to your ankles now. Noticing both ankles. Maybe you're aware that some of the weight of your legs is coming down through your ankles. You can notice whether your ankles are perfectly straight or not straight. You don't have to figure it out. Why is one straighter than the other? No, we're not going into thought about it. We're really just noticing the weight in the ankles, perhaps the skin of the ankles. If you have socks on, maybe you can feel your socks at your ankles. Keeping your eyes closed if you're comfortable with that. Now we're moving up to the calves. Noticing the front of the calves. Maybe they're touching your, I don't know, maybe they're touching your pants if you have pants on. The back of your calves maybe is touching the couch or wherever you're seated. Maybe touching your the cloth of your clothes. Noticing the skin of your calves. Noticing the bone. If you're lucky, there's no pain in there, and it can be kind of hard to notice, but maybe you've had shin splints. Noticing that spot that you've had pain before. Coming up to the knees. Again, noticing the weight of your legs kind of coming through your knees. Noticing the clothing around your knees, maybe behind your knees, in front of your knees. It's possible you're having some pain or ache or tension in your knees. You can just be noticing. If your brain goes off to trying to figure it out, trying to just bring your brain back to the present moment and bringing your awareness back to your knees. Coming back to our thighs. Again, we're in the middle of a mindful body scan. Coming back to the thighs, noticing the weight in the bottom of your thighs. Noticing the tops of your thighs. Perhaps your hands are resting on the tops of your thighs. Mine are. Maybe you can feel the weight of your hands on your thighs. Perhaps you can feel your clothing on your thighs. I don't know, I can feel my pants, on my thighs, the weight of my thighs. There's even a warmth below my thighs where I'm sitting on the cushion. I can feel a temperature differential there below my thighs compared to above. So we're just noticing, we're bringing our awareness to our own body. Let's come to the bottom, like where you're sitting on your chair or your couch, wherever you're sitting. Noticing those bones that you're sitting on. Maybe your weight is perfectly distributed. Maybe you're twisted one way more than the other. It doesn't matter how you're sitting. You're just noticing the weight of your body there in your bottom. Let's come up to the hips, the whole pelvic area, the hip area. You're noticing how you feel, your clothing. Coming up to your waist. You can probably feel, this is a good place to tune in because you can probably feel your breath at your waist. Most of us have a waistband on of some kind, right? Whether it's our pants or a skirt, whatever. Noticing your breath, the movement of your waist as you breathe. As you inhale, probably, I don't know, your pants get a little tighter. As you exhale, they probably get a little bit looser. You're just noticing, no judgment here at the waist. Scanning up to the rib cage, the front and the back of the rib cage. As you breathe, you're just noticing the movement. Oh, I got a couple of hearts and stuff. No judgment at the waistband. Okay, now we're up at the rib cage. Just noticing the inhale and the exhale, the movement of your rib cage as you breathe. Let's jump over to the hands and the forearms. Noticing your hands, they're probably resting on something, whether it's your couch or your hands, wherever, your thighs. Noticing your fingers, they're probably touching each other or maybe touching each other, perhaps touching your pants or your lap. Noticing how that feels. Coming up to your forearms, scanning them. Coming up to your elbows, scanning your upper arms, biceps, triceps. Scanning. And then coming up to your shoulders. Noticing your shoulders. Perhaps even you might have them scrunched up a little bit, maybe not. But if you do notice that they're scrunched up, you just release them. We're going to keep up with the scan. I kind of skipped over the upper chest and the upper back. But if you're leaning back in your chair in any way, normally I'm sitting on a couch, but right now I'm in a harder chair. But if you're leaning back on your couch in any way, you can probably feel where the couch is resting against your back. It might feel warmer where you're leaning against your couch or your chair. Maybe you're noticing the temperature there. Coming up to the neck. The neck holds up the head. I don't know how much our heads weigh. I don't know how much, but anyway, 20 pounds, something. But the neck is holding up your head. So right now we're just noticing the neck. Give this a try. Move the head forward and backward a little bit. Move it left and right a little bit. You're moving the head and the neck, but you're really paying attention to that feeling in the neck of those muscles moving. You're just noticing. We're doing an awareness exercise. You're just noticing how things feel, how your muscles feel when you move a little bit. All right, coming to the jaw that we're scanning up, right? Coming to the jaw, noticing any tension you have in your jaw. Coming to the mouth, probably your lips are closed. Maybe your teeth are touching each other, maybe not. Coming up to the nose, noticing that, how the nose is feeling. Well, the nose doesn't really feel, however, you might be able to feel your breath. If your eyes are closed, noticing how it feels to have your top eyelid touching your lower eyelid. Maybe give yourself a little kind of blink or wink there. Noticing all the muscles that go into that little blink or wink. So now we've scanned from the toes all the way up to the eyes and the head. And I want you just to tune into yourself right now. Anything that you've noticed now that you maybe weren't aware of before. I don't know, it could be something I touched on. It could be that you're just noticing, I don't know, your elbow leaning against the chair. You're tuning into your body right now and noticing the things that we talked about, and maybe something else. Then as you're ready, coming back, opening your eyes, coming back to the present moment. Well, we were in the present moment, but coming back to your awareness of, this session. Opening your eyes. Welcome back. Let's talk a little bit more about mindfulness. Why do we even want to be practicing this? Like I said, it can be calming at times. It can have health benefits. And let's say it's not calming, which is fine. There are times where it's not calming necessarily, or it's not necessarily relaxing, but we can have a benefit in those moments too. Being in the present moment can help us to ride out our emotions, because our emotions can get big, super big, and super overwhelming. And mindfulness practices can help us ride that out. Okay, so hang on, there's a question here. Okay. So yeah, mindfulness practices can help us ride out what is going on, right? Even if it doesn't calm us down. What if I'm feeling super anxious? Mindfulness practice can help me notice that. And noticing it over time, I can get better at noticing it, tolerating it, and not trying to just get it to go away. That's often what we do with anxiety and fear, is it's so uncomfortable that we just want it to go away. Actually, a better strategy is to allow it to be, because as we allow it to be, we're not resisting it so much. And as we learn to allow it to be, it has less power over us, right? The things we just hate and we don't want it, if somebody's making a noise and you just hate that noise, let's say it's one of your kids, a kid's making a noise and you just hate that noise and you don't want it to be there. In some ways, if your kid continues that and you hate it more and more and you get more and more angry, in some ways you're giving that noise this power over you, not intentionally, not doing it intentionally, but in some ways you're giving that noise this power over you to make you anxious and upset and mad. It's the same with our emotions. The more we just hate how we feel, the more we resist how we feel, the more power it has over us. So these mindfulness exercises can help us over time get better at just sitting with that uncomfortable feeling and finding a different relationship with it, right? So I'm never gonna love feeling super anxious, no matter what happens. I'm never gonna love feeling super angry, no matter what happens. I'm never gonna love feeling super sad, no matter what happens. But you know what? My relationship with those emotions has changed and is changing. Now I can tolerate those emotions better. I can just be present with them. So that's part of what practicing mindfulness can help us do. It can help to expand our awareness about how we feel. It can help us be less judgmental about how we feel. But at the same time, it can expand our awareness of a couple of other things. I mean, basically, I didn't know how to share my screen today, but picture a triangle. And at one point of the triangle is our thoughts. At another part of the triangle is our behaviors. And another point of the triangle is our emotions, right? So we've got thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. And the reason I present that in a triangle is because they're basically interconnected. Our thoughts, our behaviors, and our emotions, right? Like if I have a thought, I don't know, let's say I recently screamed at my kids, which I did when they were younger. Now they're older and I don't routinely scream at them, but when they were very young, I did more than I'd like to admit. And it's a difficult thing to admit because I would actually scream my head off at my kids sometimes. And when I did, in that moment, I was sure that they deserved it. But anyway, Let's say we're talking about anger, or let's say I have a thought after I'm angry at my kids. I have a thought, oh my God, I'm the worst mom ever. And guess what kind of emotion that kicks up? It kicks up shame at myself and disappointment in myself. And then that shame and disappointment at myself can make me really withdraw from my family, or it could make me really angry. It could make me angrier, right? And so there's this interconnectedness between our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. So mindfulness practices can help us expand our awareness so that we see that a little bit more. We see it a little bit more clearly. And then we have more choice about how interconnected they are, right? So if I'm completely unaware of these connections between my thoughts and emotions and behaviors, then I have the thought that I'm the worst mom ever. And I probably just believe it. And then I feel more sad, well, angry. How would I feel? How do I feel? Angry, sad, disappointed, maybe even depressed. And then I withdraw more. Maybe I eat, whatever I do. Maybe I withdraw, maybe I drink, maybe I eat, maybe I go to bed. And so you can see how, if I'm not really too aware of this whole cycle between these thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, that I'm kind of at their mercy, and they can kind of take over in my brain. Maybe I have I have a practice in my life, and they have been kind of taking over. But as I practice mindfulness, I become more aware of these connections. And maybe I can even talk back to my thoughts, because if I have the thought that I'm the worst mother in the world, sorry, I'm just checking the time. If I have the thought that I'm the worst mom ever, I don't know. I mean, it can't really be true. I mean, I got to be in the top 50%, right? Not that I'm bragging, but in the top 50%, I don't know. Like, I don't hit my kids, so I don't know. Maybe I'm doing pretty good after all, right? I don't mean to be evaluating me in that way, or making anybody critical of themselves and whatever their practices are. However, my brain just told me I'm the worst mother ever. And you know what? It can't even be true. So if I'm aware of the fact that my brain is routinely telling me things that aren't true, then I have a little bit of an edge over what my brain tells me. Or let's take an example where my emotions are super big. Let's say I'm super angry at my husband, and in the moment, I think he deserves it, right? Because once I'm super angry, I'm just so sure that people deserve my anger. But when it's past, then I'm like, I think I overreacted. But in the moment, let's say I'm super angry at my husband, and I think he's the biggest jerk in the world. Oh, that we're back to thoughts, sorry. I think he's the biggest jerk in the world. If I'm mindful, I might recognize that I've been here before. I might recognize that when I calm down, I don't think he's the biggest jerk in the world. I might recognize that I'm super uber angry right now. And I might have some experience with my own anger and recognize that I can't trust my own anger. When I'm super uber angry, I can't actually trust it. And that's a fact for me. If I'm a little bit angry, I can, I don't know, maybe trust it some that there's something that's not going well and something I need to address, maybe when I'm not so angry. But if I'm super, super angry, I can't trust it because I feel self-righteous and I'm so angry I'm not even thinking straight, right? So what am I getting at here? I'm talking a lot. I want to get back to another exercise. But what I'm talking about is that these mindfulness exercises can help us also to become more aware of our thoughts, more aware of our emotions, more aware of our behaviors and the interconnectedness of them, so that over time they don't happen subconsciously. I can make it so they happen more consciously. So, okay, here, one more example. At one point, I had a client who talked about how every evening she would be in her living room watching TV, and then eventually she always ended up in the kitchen eating, stuff she got stuff out of the cabinets, and she just in there kind of chomping on stuff out of the bag. And she hadn't intended to eat because she didn't want to eat that much. She had not really intended to go into the kitchen and end up eating, but it felt very kind of subconscious to her. She really had no idea why she did it. But as she practiced mindfulness, just like these breathing exercises or the other exercises with the orange or whatever, like we'll give you some other exercises to practice. As she practiced mindfulness, what she recognized was that she would be in the living room, sitting in her chair, watching a show, and her mind would drift off to a thought about her mother. Her mother had died. I think it was about 6 months ago. Her mother died 6 months ago. Sorry, there's a bug in here. Her mother died 6 months ago. She really missed her mother. So she had a thought about her mother. She had a feeling of sadness, missing her mother, a sense even in her body of sadness and emptiness. And then she would get up and go to the kitchen. That's where her behavior was. She would get up and go to the kitchen and eat. And maybe in a way to, I don't know, fill up that sadness or fill up that kind of void that she was feeling. But as she got this more into her conscious mind, she was more able to see it. It's still hard to stop doing it. Once it becomes more conscious, it's still hard to stop doing what we've been doing because it's a habit and it's a pattern. But over time, we can practice doing it less and less and changing our own patterns. So let's do another practice. Okay, I've got, I guess, 13 minutes left. We're going to do another practice, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about mindfulness and the benefits of mindfulness. If you do have a question, you can type in your question because it seems like I'll be able to answer those questions. But all right, our next practice, we're going to do some mindful stretching. Okay, so you can see me stretching, but I can't see you stretching. If you have a physical issue with your body, then don't do anything that causes you pain or that might hurt you. Okay, so always listen to your body. But you can modify this if you need to, but following along, I don't know, doing your best to do what I'm doing in whatever kind of modified way you want to. Okay, so we're going to do some stretching. Okay, so let's just we're seated right now. We don't have to stand up or anything. We're just going to do a little bit of seated stretching. So I want you to put your arms up in the air, however is comfortable, and then lean over towards the right. And notice the stretch in your side. So you're leaning over, whatever's comfortable. You're noticing that sense of stretch all up and down your body on the side. Going back to where we started, leaning the other way. Feeling that stretch in your side. Coming back to the top. Oh, remember this from gym class. How about we bring the arm out in front? Arm out in front. Cross the body. Pull it in towards yourself a little bit. And then feeling that stretch up there, right? You're feeling that stretch. Lowering that arm. The other arm straight out. Across your body. Pulling a little bit. I don't know, you might be more limber than I am, less limber, doesn't matter. You're just noticing that stretch. You're feeling the stretch. Back down. What I like to do with everybody is the shoulder scrunches, okay? Again, don't hurt yourself, but these shoulder scrunches can be really helpful because nearly 100% of us hold tension in our shoulders, okay? So what I want you to do now is with your next in-breath, bring your shoulders up towards your ears, whatever's comfortable, and when you're ready to exhale, you exhale and drop your shoulders at your own pace. Your pace is different than mine, but anyway, with your inhale, and then drop and exhale at the same time. Inhale, shoulders up. Exhale and drop. Again, inhale, shoulders up. Exhale and drop. at your own pace. All right, one more thing. This is a little bit crazy. It's kind of hard to do, but it's super helpful, especially with the shoulders. Oh, wait, before we do something else, let's do one more big one. Scrunch up, scrunch, drop, and then close your eyes and notice your shoulders. You might feel energy, you might feel pain, you might feel tension, you might feel more relaxed. Notice how your shoulders feel. Okay, one more. This one's hard. It's almost like the Ferris wheel. We're going to roll our shoulders. So starting at neutral, we're going to coordinate the movement of our shoulders. We're going to do a circle. We're going to coordinate the movement of our shoulders with our breath. Okay, and this can be a good one to keep us present because it's so darn complicated. It's hard to think about anything else at all. Okay, so with your next in-breath, shoulders forward and up, and then back and down. Okay, shoulders forward and up, back and down at your own pace. Maybe 3 more. Forward and up, back and down. Forward and up, back and down. One more. Forward and up, back and down. So close your eyes. Notice how that feels. And I'm going to grab myself a tissue, but keep focusing on your shoulders. When you're ready, opening your eyes. So, what do shoulder rolls have to do with handling our emotions better? Well, I don't know. They're actually related because shoulder rolls, especially when we're kind of like really just noticing everything, right? It helps increase our self-awareness. And increasing our self-awareness of our body can help us over time increase self-awareness of our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors. Plus, it can help us notice when we scrunch our shoulders too much, right? Many of us kind of go through life like this or like this. Actually, many of us do. And as we do these exercises, over time, we can relax better and we get better at noticing when we are scrunched, right? I mean, up until now, if this is new to you, you haven't even necessarily noticed when you're scrunched, okay? I want to tell you one more thing about mindfulness and its benefits before I talk to you about different practices that you can have at home, because what I've showed you today is a subset of what you could be practicing at home. There's really lots of other ideas. Again, back to the idea of noticing our thoughts. What I also want to express to you today is that many of us have thoughts. I don't know, all of us, forget that many of us, scratch that. All of us have negative thoughts. In our brains, it's very difficult to be supportive of ourselves. It's very difficult to be non-judgmental, and it's very difficult to be compassionate. We often have so many negative thoughts all the time. And one of the issues with that is it makes us feel small. Yeah, that's a big issue, isn't it? It makes us feel small. It makes us feel ashamed. It can make us feel guilty, all that negativity up there. But in addition, most of us believe those negative thoughts until we start to learn that we don't have to believe all that. We all have negative thinking. It starts when we're children. That could be a whole nother lecture. But we all have negative thinking. It's universal. It's not healthy, and it does not help us to be more productive. Some of us think, okay, I don't know, my brain is just telling me the truth and it's going to keep me from becoming a couch potato. No, it makes us more likely to become a couch potato when our brain is so darned negative. Okay. They do so much research on the brain, and all of these negative thoughts, they're not helpful. One guy who researches the brain, his name is Daniel, Amen, Amen. And he researches the brain, and that's a whole nother lecture too. But he talks a lot about how we all need to have a strategy for brain health. And one of the best strategies for brain health, well, he talks about different things. It's eat right, eat well, exercise, have good relationships with people. He talks about a bunch of different things. But one of the pieces he talks about is the automatic negative thoughts. He calls them ants. Automatic negative thoughts aren't actually a good thing. And we can develop strategies to believe our negative thoughts less, and we can get better at setting them aside. Okay, and that's part of what the mindfulness can do, is it can help us practice noticing our negative thoughts, not automatically believing them, and getting better at disputing them and setting them aside. So that's one more benefit. So let's see, we've got a couple more minutes left. Again, I'm going to remind you of my name, and then I'm going to tell you a couple other things you can practice. My name is Penny Meckley Porter. I am a therapist here in Erie, PA. I love teaching people mindfulness. It's one of the most rewarding things that I do. 6 months ago, I founded Thrive Therapy Space, which is a place where therapists can come to belong. It's a place where therapists themselves can thrive. I'm talking about like mental health therapists, where therapists themselves can thrive, because that's important. I want to help people thrive. I want to help the therapists thrive, and then the therapists, we can all help our clients to thrive. So as far as these practices, I want you to be creative and figure out how can you be practicing mindfulness. You can do the exercises that I did, but here's some other ideas. You can be mindful in the shower. Maybe at the very beginning of the shower, you notice when you first step in, you notice how the water feels on your head, how it feels going down the back of your head, down your neck, down your body, off of your legs. In the shower, you can practice, let's see, feeling what you hear, smelling. The more senses you get involved in mindfulness exercises, the better. Actually, I hadn't said that before. So in the shower, you can feel temperature, heat, water. You also can use your sense of smell, your sense of, what are they all? I'm spacing on. Oh, your sense of hearing. Another example would be peeling one of these nectarines, taking 5 minutes to peel it, or maybe 5 minutes to peel it. Like seriously, I know that sounds so slow. It sounds excruciating, but like 5 minutes to like peel this. Listen. Taking your time. You can probably smell it. Well, you can't smell it there, but I can smell it, right? Taking 5 minutes to peel it. If that sounds too crazy for you, okay, take 1 minute to peel it. And then take a minute to eat a piece. Like seriously, slowing down that much, a minute to eat a piece. Or taking 5 minutes to eat, guess what? Chocolate. Taking 5 minutes to eat a piece of chocolate. Another great place to be mindful is your first bite or your first sip of anything. It might be coffee, it might be wine, it might be a seltzer water. That's a perfect example. It might be soda. The first sip, pausing before the sip, taking the sip, and just noticing everything. There's a burst of flavor. You can probably feel it on your tongue. You can feel it as you swallow it, right? So the first sip or the first bite of anything is a great place to be mindful. And one other thing is, if you have any kind of collection of things from nature, nature can often be calming to all of us, right? So if you have a little collection, whoops, it's going to be loud, of little tiny things. Maybe you've got something like this or something like this. You take your little thing. This is a piece of driftwood. That's a little, I guess, pine cone. You take your little thing, just one thing. You can look at it and study it. And this actually has like I'm not too good at this. It's got a lot of different, they're not textures, I don't know, patterns in it. And or closing your eyes and spending seriously 5 minutes just noticing everything about it. Sounds a little ridiculous. A lot of these mindfulness exercises might sound ridiculous at the beginning, but they're so valuable. Mindfulness practices, right? It could be something like this that's smooth. There's not that much to explore, but you can still spend 5 minutes just feeling the outside. And then when you notice that your brain goes racing off to something else, once you notice, you're very calmly and you're very compassionate with your brain, because you're always being non-judgmental, right? When you're doing all this mindfulness as best as you can, you pull your brain right back to the present moment, and then you continue with your mindfulness exercise. So thank you all for being here today and letting me teach you about mindfulness. I appreciate it. You can always rewind this if there's a certain activity that you liked. Oh, and I wanted to tell you there are places online where you can learn about mindfulness. There are some apps. There's one called Headspace. It's a meditation app, teach you about meditation. There's another one called Calm. There's many apps, actually. Find one that you just like. Some of them can help you with your breathing. They have a little icon that goes up and down or in and out to help you with your breathing. And there's another one called Insight Timer, but I'm just Google best meditation apps or best mindfulness apps, and you'll find a list of them, and you can kind of read about them and decide what you like the best. Again, thank you for being with me today. Good luck with everything going on out there. Keep up your mindfulness practices, and over time, these practices will help you to tolerate the current difficulties that are happening right now, help you tolerate it a little bit better. All right, thank you.